I should refuse to answer the question. And they were right, because I did have a constitutional right to refuse to submit myself to that kind of political inquiry. But I think that the time has come when we have to be very open in the fight that we're waging, because we see all over the country that black people, brown people, and white people also were being subjected to all kinds of political repression. They're spending, Bobby Seale, for instance, now is facing a murder charge and also facing the conspiracy charge around the Chicago Convention. Eldridge Cleaver is in exile. We have to talk about a complete and total change in the structures of this society, because that's the only way that a concept like academic freedom is going to be made relevant. We have to go to the streets. The Berkeley campus has perhaps the most unique tradition of political activity. You have continually assumed the political responsibility of responding to acts of repression and have been capable of involving the masses of the students on this campus in demonstrative political actions. If only for this reason, I feel very proud to be able to speak to you today.
What Angela Davis had to say here at UC Berkeley was no different from what many other radicals have said. Her only problem seems to be that she's given herself a label. She calls herself a member of the Communist Party. Belva Davis for Eyewitness News, UC Berkeley.
They didn't have to identify themselves as pigs, because anyone on the street caught from this moment forward molesting anyone, you did, who doesn't have only sentenced to 9 months imprisonment and 3 years probation. The racist hunky dog judge sit up there.
I believe that the fight is just beginning to start. The fight against all those who want to make your university a training school for the perpetuation of a society, the security of which and the prosperity of which is based on the oppression and enslavement of other peoples within the national frontiers and without. The fight against these powers must go on, because it is a fight for you.
Come to the aid of another student or a fellow citizen.
Perspectives. And of course, the membership of the Alliance would range from, say, myself, who's a member of the Communist Party, to John Conyers, who is a member of the Congressional Black Caucus in Washington. We feel that the way to put an end to this, the way to ensure victories in these cases, is to build a mass movement and develop actions through which any and everybody who is opposed to injustice can add their voices to the outcry.
What about work?
Well, I think that one thing is very clear. The way in which they were attacked in Los Angeles by the police with this massive violence has to be challenged, has to be attacked. And we identify completely with the campaign against police repression in that respect, because we know that we can also be victims of the same kind of attack. And so, while of course, I and we've always made it clear that we believe that the revolution is going to come through utilizing different strategy, through organizing masses of people, and not through the kinds of things that the SLA was committed to do. Nevertheless, we have to challenge that police repression of which they were victims.
In every form, North Carolina represents a microcosm in repression and in racism. And we feel that it is in that state that it is possible to set up an actual police state and to make that a real model of the New South and therefore a model for the rest of the country. For example, there are 33 prisoners on death row in North Carolina at the moment. 26 of them are black, one is Indian. That's almost 46% of the people on death row throughout the country. If they are allowed to carry out the North Carolina Supreme Court's decision to reinstitute the death penalty, then the United States Supreme Court will be in a position to make that the law of the land. And then in the state of California, the capital punishment will be able to be carried out here as well.
The problem appears to be that there's no organization. There's no way to make that interest and that concern felt and seen. And I think that at this particular historical moment in our country, we have to be very much concerned with building organizational forms. If we don't, we may very well be facing an era of extreme repression, an era of intensified racism, and I think that we are beginning to see the beginnings of that now. And the reason for that is that with the ruling class in such a condition now, with the president, the person who tries to be president under the kind of justified attack, with the whole administration crumbling, they're going to try to prevent the development of any kind of a united, multinational movement among the people in this country. And racism is the way you prevent that. Repression is the way you prevent that. The defense organization in the Bay Area is urgent. It is particularly important because we have to talk about defending Ruchell McGee, who is now facing a second trial in San Jose. We must talk about how to build a mass movement to free the San Quentin Six and Earl Gibson and Larry Justice. We must talk about how to build a movement here in the Bay Area to support and defend our sisters and brothers who were indicted as a result of the struggle at Wounded Knee. And there is Brother Teodale Campos. Are there any other questions? Other drafters of this. So I would urge
thousands of people who are victims of police chiefs who want to keep the first day I was in jail. You know why? Because they didn't know who I was. That was the thing that was really funny, and it made me sick, because when I was let out of that maximum security cell where I had been chained, the captain, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department captain, came in and said, "Mr. Russo, we didn't know who you were." Well, I said, who am I? Well, the fact of the matter was that our case had publicity, and the fact that I got beat up in jail was something that drew attention to them, and that's what they were worried about. They didn't care who I was. They were really afraid of who you gentlemen are, who the mass media are, and they were afraid of mass media attention being drawn to that.